Welcome back, everybody. I'm Trevor with Maker Experiment, and today is day one of UV printer training. Let's get into it. Prior to the training, I actually received a document from LogoJET about what to expect for day one and day two of training. So what I want to do is walk you through what those things are before the trainer gets here, and then we'll go through the actual process. So for day one, it's inspection of the machine to make sure nothing was damaged during transit. I've kind of already done that, but they verify. Removal of any additional packaging, I've already done that as well. There might be things on the actual machine like brackets and stuff. Configuration of the computer, installation of the software, installation of all the inks, running the first head cleanings and nozzle check to make sure that the printer is working properly, testing all of the voltages, complete the alignment of the print heads depending on what's going on there. And once all of that is ready to go, we dive into me learning more about the machine. So review of the procedure of the machine, how to operate it, how to connect to it, things like that. And then review of the RIP software and the driver. That is day one. So we'll see how far we get today with day one, but let me go ahead and tell you what day two is as well. So day two is continuation of the RIP software training, alignment of trays if you have them, so I do have one of those, printing samples of customers' product. So things you want to learn how to make, they will show you how to make. I know that I have a few ideas in mind. Review of the storage procedure, review of maintenance, backup of all of the installation files in case something happens, and then a review of any other questions. So day two to me seems more free form of the, hey, this is what I want to make. How do I do that? I know that I want to learn how to do tumblers. I also know that I want to learn how to do the spot gloss effect. There's a few things that I want to learn. So I'm hoping I can get to those, but we will jump in today with the trainer when they get here. I don't know how much of it I'm going to film like that while we're doing it. So we'll see, but I'll explain the different things as we're going through them and kind of give you my experience as we go. All right, so Rob has arrived to install the LogoJET printer. So Rob, tell us a little bit about yourself and how long you've been with LogoJET.
My name's Rob. I've been with LogoJET for about 2 years now. I've been in the UV printing industry for close to 20.
It's all good. That's why it's recorded and not live. So Rob's going to walk us through, we've already unboxed it, gotten it on the stand. We have to take some of the shipping brackets off. We'll do that first, and then talk a little bit about the differences between this one and the previous version, the UVX 40R Plus, kind of give an update on what has changed, then the major changes and how that has affected things like maybe maintenance, daily usage, stuff like that.
Right.
So first off, we're going to go ahead and get set up to do that, and then we'll kind of walk through all of the processes throughout the next 2 days.
So first thing I'm going to do is take off these stickers that come applied to the printer. Just remove it slow. You won't leave any residue. But if you do, it's not a big deal. It doesn't affect anything. There'll be no moving parts running over it. And this will just all come off as one piece. Then we're going to remove these two brackets that are holding the carriage in place. And when you take these off, you want to keep them aside somewhere just in case you ever have to move the printer again. So getting ready to start at the printer. One thing you're always going to want to check is the encoder strip. We want to make sure that it's sitting in the tabs and that it's running through the encoder sensor on the back of the carriage. That'll make sure you won't have any issues on startup.
So this right there is the encoder strip sensor, and then here, this clear-ish strip on the back, that's the encoder strip. It goes all the way over to here, and you want to make sure it's in that tab over there.
So this is a UVX 45i. There's been a few improvements from the 40R. First and most noticeable is the print head. So instead of the 4 print heads that you had prior on the 40R, you're going to have 1 Epson print head as opposed to 4 Ricoh heads. So this is going to be a little easier on maintenance. It's much cleaner inside the carriage, less head cables. You're going to have 4 dampers instead of 8. So it's a little easier to work with. And when it comes to replacing print heads and running head alignments, it's a much easier process as opposed to aligning 1 print head to the other 3. Another improvement is you now have 2 UV lamps. This is similar to the lamp you had on the 40R. This lamp is an upgraded lamp. This lamp can break down into 2 zones. So you can do you could use it as a regular UV lamp as you're printing, or you could break it down into a half zone and you could do your wet gloss look all in one pass when you used to have to do it in 2. You also have collision detection now. So if you're running a print and these sensors hit into anything, it's going to shut the printer down. So that'll save your print heads. You also have an LED light in here, so you can see what you're working on. And there's also all of your maintenance and your cleaning is now done over the capping station, as opposed to running the pump in the capping station, then moving all the way over to the other side of the machine to then jet the nozzles and then to move back. So it speeds up the cleaning process a little bit, and it gives you 1 less waste ink bottle to worry about.
One important thing to note is this used to be that purge station you were talking about.
Yes.
All of that has been eliminated, and now it's just where the rail goes. So it also eliminated the ink bottle that was down on that left side. So everything has basically been removed from over here.
Yes. So it makes the head clean a little faster because it no longer has to travel to the other side of the machine. So it just does it all right over this capping station over here. So first thing we're going to do, we're going to install the inks. So I'm going to cut off this plastic wrapping. And then we'll start to install the ink. So each ink has a color designation. K is black, and then Y is yellow, magenta, cyan. Then you have your 2 varnishes, varnish 1 and 2, and then you have white 1 and 2. And then it's as easy as just taking this plastic needle and plugging it right into the bag, and that'll stop any leaks. So another thing you're going to want to do is you want to make sure your ink tray is between 16 and 20 degrees. So right now it's at 14. So in order to adjust that, there are screws on the left and the right side of the ink tray. I'm just going to loosen those up a little bit. And then you're going to raise or lower the ink tray until you get to that 16 degrees. And you're going to tighten those screws back up. And this will just ensure consistent ink flow, as all the ink is gravity fed. So you just want enough pitch on the ink tray to make sure it's all fed into the lines properly. So one thing you're going to want to keep in mind is you're going to need 2 dedicated USB ports, and that's to run the printer itself, as well as the key for Cathari Print Pro. Then from there, your technician is going to install your basic files like your C++ and your Windows color profiles, things like that. Something you don't really need to worry about. We'll take care of this on our end, but it's just something during the install process. So now that the inks are installed, first thing you're going to want to do is to make sure that the drainage bottle is connected to the maintenance tube in the back. So once you confirm that the maintenance tube is connected to the drainage bottle, that's when you can run a head clean. To run a head clean, there's a button on the front of the panel here on the machine. Just press head cleaning. And it'll take a second. Then you'll start to hear the maintenance pump run. And from there, we'd be good to run our nozzle check. So to run a nozzle check, you're going to move the bed forward
because we need to make sure, and there's an etched line in the print bed here. It's a little faint and it's hard to see, but you could also use this first row of vacuum holes as your guide. And you want to make sure that this point is in front of this sensor here. That's your auto height sensor. Once it is, then you can hit the auto height button and it'll raise the bed automatically till it senses a material or any obstacle in the way. So sensed, and then it drops it down just a little bit. So from there, you're going to turn your auto height sensor off. That's to avoid the bed lowering anytime you put your hands in front of the sensor or anything like that. So you're then going to move your clear sheet to your print origin, and then you're going to turn on your vacuum bed, and that'll hold your material down. So from there, you're going to want to ensure that your UV lamps are turned on, and there's two knobs on the front. Turn them on. And then once you're ready to print, you can press the nozzle check button. And what you're looking for in a nozzle check is you'll see that there's very small lines, almost in a step pattern. And you want to make sure that there's no breaks in those lines. It's much easier to see on the white. Your colors are here as well. Sometimes it's helpful to lay the colored portion of the nozzle check over like a white printer paper sheet, and that way those colors will pop a lot more so you can see if there's any missing nozzles. So once we confirm that there's a good nozzle check and all your nozzles are firing, next step is to run the head alignment. The head alignment will be mostly led by your technician, depending on if it's a remote install or an on-site install. If it's remote, we'll mainly use your eyes for help to, in case you take a photo and it's just not clear enough to see the pattern, because it is a very fine print pattern. After the head alignment, we'll run like a fine-tuning adjustment in Print Pro, and that'll be we'll print squares and circles, and that's just to make sure that your white layer of the print is directly underneath your colored layer. So first part of the alignment we're going to run is the vertical calibration, and that's just to make sure that the print head is sitting within the carriage and it's perfectly vertically aligned to the carriage. So what we're looking for here is we want to set this bottom set of lines into the top set of lines. And we want to set it so this bottom line sits right into the top hole, the top notch. So it's kind of hard to tell on the camera, but it looks like we're just about spot on at +4. So we will have to adjust the vertical alignment of the print head just a little bit.
So you're trying to make the 0 one the...
Yes, exactly.
Quick enough.
So to adjust the vertical alignment, we're going to loosen this bolt so that will allow the print head to move. And then we're going to push in these set screws, and that'll adjust the position of the print head either clockwise or counterclockwise. So we want to make sure that both set screws are touching the print head, and then we'll make our adjustment as needed. So that was about 1/8 of a turn. So now we'll tighten this bolt back up, and then we'll run this alignment pattern again to see where we land. So first thing we're going to do is open up Cathari Print Pro, and we're going to want to map our printer. So first thing you'll have to do is select the printer port, which is LogoJET RECI, and the model of the printer should drop down and fill automatically. And then you just need to name the printer. So I'll name it UVX45i. And now this printer will be listed and able to use. So the next thing we'll do is I'll set up a quick taskbar. So we'll have all of our most commonly used settings and adjustments all up in a little bar up here. So you can just kind of run step by step by step. And you can adjust the order of these icons by using these arrows on the right. And click OK. Another thing we'll have to do is import our print environments. So in this case, we have 3 print environments in 3 different resolutions: 720 by 900, 720 by 1200, and 720 by 1800. Okay, so they'll drop into their own category. And you'll have 1 print environment for each resolution. And we'll just have to check to make sure our color profiles and curves are all set up properly, which is something that your technician will do. Yesterday we wrapped up day 1 of the training. The machine is up, it's got the ink installed, and it is running. I do want to do a real quick recap of what we did before we head into day 2. On day 1, we started by taking off all the shipping stuff and then installing the inks and making sure that everything was purging properly. From there, we started doing the head alignment, and there's only 1 head on this machine, so the head alignment didn't take too long. From there, we went through and installed Cathari and everything on the computer and made sure that we could connect back and forth. There was a little bit of time spent there before we jumped into actually working with the print environment and trying to dial in the results. So we looked at spot gloss a little bit, we looked at the colors, we looked at white underbase, and that took up, I would say, the last probably half of the day was just making sure that the printer itself was dialed in and getting ready for day 2. Once Rob gets here for day 2, I think we're going to run through how to make different products. We'll also run through some of the maintenance stuff that has to happen with this machine. Thankfully, I already have a little bit of experience printing to the printer from Cathari. So we're going to focus more on some of the things that I want to learn and some of the products I want to make. So once Rob gets here, we'll jump into that, but wanted to make sure you guys had an update as to what was covered all through day 1, because I didn't film the entire process of making sure the machine was running properly. I didn't feel like you would want to see that. So we'll jump into day 2 and go from there. Before we jump into day 2, I want to give a huge shout out to LogoJET, who is the sponsor of this video. If you didn't know LogoJET before this video, they manufacture UV printers. UV printers are a great complement to a laser. You can print on practically any material. I printed on acrylic, I printed on cork, metal, and many other things. And the ability to add color to my creations has been a game changer for the stuff that I want to do. I've applied this to signs to get extremely detailed pictures incorporated into signs. I've been able to print directly onto canvas. I've been able to do a lot of things that I would not have been able to do if I did not have a UV printer. So if you're interested in learning more about them, let me know. Put any questions you have in the comments below and I'll do my best to answer those. But if you're interested in their machines, go to logojet.com, check them out. The one that I'm using is the UVX45i. Again, if you have any questions, let me know, and let's go jump into day 2. We're going to start off day 2 of the on-site technician training. So the first thing we need to do is kind of walk through the startup process that we follow every single day. So why don't you walk us through that?
Okay, so first thing you're going to do is you're going to turn on the machine itself. You can turn this big red knob, that's your emergency stop, but you could also use it as your power button. Once this is on, you can open up the RYPC software on the computer. And so once the RYPC is open, you can press the left arrow to bring the carriage out to the center of the bed. And first thing you're going to do is you're going to shake your white ink bags. So you can just pull the needle out of the ink bag, just push it aside, and you're just going to shake the bag for about 30 seconds to a minute. And once it's shaken, just plug those ink bags right back in. And then once those ink bags are shaken, you're going to hit your head clean. So once the head clean is ran, we can load up our clear sheet to run our nozzle check. So once the clear sheet's loaded, you can turn on the fan to hold the sheet down. And we're going to move the bed forward to get that row of vacuum holes past the sensor, as I discussed yesterday. And then you're going to hit auto height. Once that height is set, we can turn it off, and then we can run our nozzle check. So what we're looking for is we want to make sure that you have a consistent pattern for each color. There's no breaks in the lines, in the step pattern. And then you're going to want to check your white as well.
Make sure there's no nozzles missing there. And then there's also a varnish here that's just a little tough to pick up on camera, but if you change the direction of the sheet in the light, you can kind of see the varnish nozzles. So you can check those as well. And usually, as long as you have about 95% of your nozzles, you're good to print. Most of the time, it'll just clear out as it prints. So sometimes it's not worth wasting the ink on another head clean. So one thing to note with the nozzle check, if you decide to run, if there's about 95% of your nozzles, you have a couple nozzles missing here and there, and you decide to run and print, it's good to just hold on to your past couple days nozzle checks, just to make sure that same nozzle hasn't been out consistently for the past 2 to 3 days.
Okay.
Because then you might want to work on either flushing the print head or soaking the print head, trying to get that nozzle unclogged, because otherwise it'll be clogged permanently. Okay. And you'll never get that nozzle back. So for your weekly maintenance, these are the supplies you're going to need. You need your foam swabs, you need your maintenance flush solution, your oil, your white lithium grease, your 99% alcohol, and your UV lamp filters. So as part of your weekly maintenance, we're going to put some oil on the carriage rail. And you don't need much, just 2 drops should do it. And then once that's applied, you can bring the carriage out and just run it along the rail just to spread that oil around. Move it back and forth. And then while we have the carriage out, we could also grease our carriage belt and our motor drive belt. So we'll take our white lithium grease, and again, you don't need much, just a very small dab, and we'll apply it to the pulley down on this end, and then we'll also grease the pulley down on this end, as well as the motor drive belt. Again, a very small amount should do it. You don't need much. So next we're going to swab our print head. So you take your foam swab and you dip it in some UV flush solution. I'm just going to drag it along the print head. And then you're going to flip to the other side of the swab for the next channel. You can do the same thing. And then you're going to get a new swab. You don't want to use the same swab twice, just in case it peeled any dust or dirt off that print head. You don't want to drag it across the next channel. And you're going to clean the carriage as well, because that wiper blade does run across the carriage as well, so you don't want to drag too much dirt and dust along the print head that way either. Once that's done, you want to follow up with some 99% alcohol just along the carriage, as the UV flush solution does leave a bit of a residue. So you just want to clean that up so it doesn't collect any dust. Next we're going to clean our capping station and our wiper blade. So you're going to take the foam swab, dip it in UV flush solution, and clean around the outside and all along the top. And we're going to do the same for the wiper blade. And same thing, we're going to follow up with some 99% alcohol. And last thing, we're going to change the UV lamp filter. So we tend to do this every week. But if you use the printer a lot and you start to notice it's getting built up, getting dark, dirty, it's good to replace it a little more often. It's really dependent on use. We're also going to want to make sure we empty our drain bottle. We're going to want to do this at least every week. That way we make sure it doesn't overflow. Once that's emptied, just make sure when you put it back in that this drainage tube goes right through the lid. So that wraps up the weekly maintenance. There's also a couple things we need to do for monthly maintenance. There's a couple of worm gears in the machine. There's one for the bed. There's one for the Z-axis motor as well. So we want to put some white lithium grease on that, and we have a document that shows all the oil and grease points on the machine, and you could use that to kind of find, because there is a worm gear tucked behind a removable panel here. So that'll show you how to get to that as well. And you could line up your monthly maintenance on every 4th week of your weekly maintenance. Just get it all done in one shot. In total, with monthly maintenance involved into your weekly, it should take you no more than 15 minutes. So there are consumables that need to be replaced. Every 6 to 12 months, you can count on replacing something on some maintenance schedule. So every 6 months, you're going to have your cap top as well as your wiper blade. It's going to need to be replaced. One cap top is included. The wiper blade you'll have to purchase. Your dampers are every 12 months. These are supplied as well as the O-rings that go with them. And then you have a year supply of your lamp filters, and these are replaced weekly. One thing to consider as well is your encoder strip. It's good to buy one after a year. They tend to last a year, 2 years, sometimes 3, but it's good to have one on hand just in case it starts getting scratched or gets beyond repair and you start getting errors on startup. So your print head is also a consumable, as well as your ink tubes and your ink needles, but those are replaced as needed. They tend to last a while. Another thing you want to pay attention to is your shelf life on your inks and your adhesion promoters. Shelf life on ink is about a year, and your adhesion promoters is 6 months. So with your machine also comes with a 3-year warranty that covers all parts except print heads. We also have tech support. We're always reachable by email or phone, and we have a very quick turnaround time, and that's included with the purchase of the machine as well. And tech support is lifetime.
I wrapped up the 2-day training yesterday with the technician, and I wanted to give you all a recap of the experience. In day 2, we covered things like maintenance and projects that I wanted to make personally. This involved things like clear gloss, rotary, the 3-in-1 tray, and then just going over some of the things that are in the Cathari software for my own knowledge. Overall, Rob did spend 2 days here helping me with learning the machine. He set up the machine in day 1, got it up and running, got everything working, making sure that the head was aligned, making sure it was printing correctly, and all of those things to make sure that nozzle checks are good and that the machine was going to operate as intended. I will say that I had a little bit of a jump start because I knew how to print to the machine from Cathari and how to design towards it, so that helped me quite a bit, which enabled me to focus on what I wanted to learn. The best part about having that in-person hands-on is I can show him exactly what I'm trying to do and the objects that I'm using and get real-time input and learn how to do what I'm looking to do. Ultimately, you're probably wondering, is the on-site training worth the money? In my opinion, I think so, depending on where you are in your journey. If you are a pro that has had multiple machines and you've been doing this for decades and you're just focused on the product you already make, it may not be worth it to have the on-site training. If you're relatively new to UV printing and you've never had one before, I would highly recommend it. And there's a few reasons why. Number 1, when setting up the machine, they can walk you through it remotely, but there might be some things that they pick up on that you won't remotely. One good example of this is my 0-0 on my machine was slightly off, And I didn't notice that at all initially while we were doing what we were doing. Rob actually found that, and he was able to fix it very quickly in the software to make sure that everything was lined up as it should be. The other part of this is the technicians are very familiar with what they're doing, and something that will take them 5 to 10 minutes might take me 4 or 5 hours. And that's really what you're paying for, is that expertise. So being able to have somebody on site to focus on getting the machine up and running and just working for you, that is, in my opinion, extremely valuable. I don't want to spend time setting up the machine and getting it dialed in for what I want to do. In my opinion, if you're running a business, it is worth spending the money to just have somebody come in, get it up and running for you, show you exactly what you need to make and how to do it, and be able to take off and start selling things right away. That is how you need to approach these types of things, is, can my money be spent in a smart way to help me make more money in the long run? A good example of this is the spot gloss. I had struggled with this in the past, and I had tried to learn it on my own just from watching other people's videos, but those videos were always missing bits and pieces that told you what to do, and therefore I never really learned how to do it properly. Rob showed me how to do it in maybe 5 minutes. I was able to record it on site so I can look back at it later and see how to do it again. And that to me was worth it, because if I can add spot gloss to my designs and be able to sell things more with that effect, it was well worth the money. As I get more involved with this machine and as I use it more, I plan to share everything that I can about what I've learned, how to do things, to make it easier for all of you to be able to replicate and do it on your own. If there's anything you want to see or videos you want to see as well, put those in the comments below and I will do my best to make videos in the future showing off what this machine can do. But I do want to give a huge shout out to LogoJET for making this possible, as well as a huge shout out to Rob for being a good sport and filming with me. I know that if you're not used to filming, it's kind of a nerve-wracking experience, especially when it's with a stranger and you're kind of on the spot with things. So huge shout out to him. He was very helpful and honestly made this experience so much better. But that's going to do it for this video. If you liked it, give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so that you know when I come out with new videos. Be sure to check out my Instagram @MakerExperiment, where I share things along the way. Be sure to check out LogoJET's website as well. But I want to thank you for taking the time to watch this video, and I'll see you in the next one.